it's Bill Healy.
Hi, Trustee Healy. We're just going to get
Hello,
started
Teresa.
in a few minutes still.
Okay, I'll hang on.
call the meeting to order. Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Here, attending over the phone.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Milani.
Here.
Trustee Compass.
Here.
Trustee Reardon. Trustee Radoszewski.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Resolution opposing Cook County's vaccination passport mandate.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Compass.
I move to pass a resolution entitled Resolution Opposing Cook County's Vaccination Passport Mandate.
Second.
I'll start with the resolution, several pages long, so I'm not going to read the entire resolution, but I'll read the highlights and then give some information first before moving it to the board to discuss. So this resolution is opposing Cook County's vaccination passport mandate. Whereas on December 23, 2021, Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle announced that Cook County will impose a vaccine mandate as of January 3, 2022, barring anyone eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine who elects to remain unvaccinated from entering bars, restaurants, gyms, and fitness centers, entertainment venues where food and beverages are served, and sports arenas, concert venues, bowling alleys, and movie theaters without providing any data as to why these businesses are singled out among all other businesses in which vaccine passports would be necessary. Whereas the original goal of the emergency orders was to flatten the curve and to ensure our hospital systems were not overwhelmed, and whereas since these goals continue to be met, new and continuously unrealistic goals are being imposed unilaterally without legislative approval, and whereas since the beginning of this pandemic, rather than being engaged in the decision-making process, local officials have been informed of these decisions via press conferences. So the board hereby resolves, the village president and president board of trustees hereby call for the Illinois General Assembly to end its abdication of responsibility and reconvene to address health, safety, and welfare of Illinois residents in light of COVID-19 by exercising their valid authority to legislate in those areas. The village president and board of trustees of the village call for the General Assembly to ban mandatory vaccination passports to access businesses and other places of public assembly. The village president and board of trustees of the village call for the General Assembly to re-examine the announced Cook County vaccination passport mandate for its legitimacy and enforceability. The village president and the board of trustees of the village calls for the General Assembly to afford adequate due process for any municipal corporation or any individual resident of the state of Illinois or any business in the state of Illinois to appeal any vaccination passport requirements. And the village president and board of trustees of the village restate that it is the policy of the village not to take enforcement action in furtherance of the mitigation set forth in the announced action taken by Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, because the provisions of the announced action violate the rights of the village residents without being fact-based necessary mitigation. And with that, I've put together some data and some information as well. So last Thursday, we were all informed of the mandate issued by Tony Preckwinkle and Cook County Department of Public Health that is beyond their authority and is an overreach. This mandate stated, as I'm showing here, that for all indoor settings where food and drink are served for on-premises consumption in health and fitness centers, businesses must require any individuals 5 years of age and older to show proof that they are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 with an approved vaccine in order to enter the establishment. Businesses must require patrons age 16 and older to show identification as well, with information that corresponds to the vaccine proof. Businesses may, in the interest of efficiency, allow patrons to provide the required vaccination proof prior to entry, either to the business itself or through an intermediary. Employees must be vaccinated or must weekly show proof of a negative COVID-19 test. And businesses must develop a written protocol as well, providing details for how they will enforce this order. This order also states that a law enforcement officer with proper jurisdiction, that would be Village of Orland Park Police, shall be authorized to enforce orders issued by the Cook County Department of Public Health with respect to public health measures and shall assist in enforcing such orders. Chief Mitchell, before I get into the questions about the order itself, can you please tell me if your officers have the available time to police all of our restaurants, gyms, and entertainment facilities on top of your regular duties? I think that would be about 250 different facilities.
Mr. Mayor and members of the board, I'm Chief of Police Joe Mitchell. The department is already expending a substantial amount of resources to combat another poorly researched and disastrous Cook County policy of catch and release. Law enforcement and certainly the general public have witnessed on TV, on social media, and unfortunately in person the devastating outcomes of this government overreach and the impact it's had on safety throughout the region. I simply do not have, nor would I devote crucial resources to this new ill-advised policy, an unfunded policy whereupon the Orland Park Police Department would have to assist with dealing with vaccine passport mandates. In my humble opinion, with nearly 27 years of law enforcement experience, the time and efforts of department personnel are better suited to implementing efficient and effective policies and procedures, as we currently are, that have proven track record of keeping Orland Park residents and their visitors safe.
And Chief, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this year we have the lowest crime again on record and with only 3 days left in the year.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, but yes, Mr. Mayor, we currently have the lowest amount, but that is due to the fact that we've sacrificed tremendously. We put our officers at risk. Our gun arrests are up substantially.
And violent crimes are also down again. So we're taking our time to actually keep our residents safe at significant risk to our officers and expending significant resources to keep our residents safe from actual crime. And doing this would take them away from those efforts, correct?
Certainly.
All right. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. It is clear that the Cook County government is not concerned with our officers' workload. This isn't surprising to me or anyone else up here, considering Kim Foxx's policies have already overworked our officers and put our residents at risk. And yet, in spite of all this, I'm shocked that they wouldn't even consider our officers when asking them to spend their time targeting law-abiding businesses at the expense of doing real police work and keeping residents safe from actual crime. None of the data that was used to make this decision was shared with the public, but supposedly it's fact-based. For this reason, I immediately sent a letter requesting that the data used to make this decision be made available. I asked for the following data that you see up here on the slide. The number of COVID-related deaths, COVID hospitalizations, and COVID-positive tests in total by date, broken down by the following 4 categories: vaccinated and previously had COVID, vaccinated and did not previously have COVID, unvaccinated and previously had COVID, and unvaccinated and did not previously have COVID, which would paint a pretty clear picture. The data being used that indicates businesses where food is served, event spaces and/or gyms and fitness centers are a significant source of COVID spread. Data that indicates that every other type of business is a less significant source of COVID spread than those that are targeted in these mitigation efforts. The data that indicates mandating proof of vaccination at these establishments will stop or significantly reduce the spread of COVID. Information that shows that employees cannot contract or spread COVID in the 7 days following a negative test. The specific law that grants Cook County the authority to mandate that businesses enforce this order. The data or information that was used to select the future data of January 3rd as the implementation date for these mitigations that would be most effective. As of this meeting, as we sit here right now, here is the data that I've received. Yeah, nothing. Received 0 data. If this was truly a data-driven decision, it would have been readily available. However, not only have we received 0 data, we haven't even been given the courtesy of a response saying that they received our letter. Why? I can only assume that there is no data that supports this decision, and it is political and as capricious as it appears. The first line in the order reads that businesses must I'm reading this. Businesses must require any individuals 5 years of age and older to show proof, that's 5 years of age and older, to show proof that they're fully vaccinated against COVID-19 with an approved vaccine in order to enter the establishment. It also requires vaccine proof for any non-school related athletic activities. Combine this with the fact that over 82% of the adult population and 95% of the seniors in Illinois have had at least one vaccine dose, and it becomes perfectly clear that this mandate is focused on coercing parents' medical decisions about their children. For this reason, I pulled down this data and other data related to COVID in children. As you can see, since the inception of this disease, this is since the beginning, children under 20 have had more cases than any other age group, but the impact on them has been minimal. In fact, there have been almost 4 times as many children killed by gunfire in Cook County this year alone than the number of children who have died with COVID in the last 2 years. Also, currently, the region's hospitals have 826 COVID patients. Only 12 are under the age of 18. I also looked at the mortality rate by comparing deaths with COVID to the number of cases over various time periods. The good news, as you see here, as it's shown from June to present, June of this year to present, from the beginning of this to present, and then also from the beginning to June 30th of this year, you can see the mortality rates. The good news is the mortality rate has declined for all age groups, but it's particularly notable that for our senior population, the lower mortality rate is really significant, and it does coincide with that higher senior vaccination rate. However, it should also be noted the mortality rate for children who contract COVID has dropped to less than 0.005%, which is 10 times less than their likelihood of dying via suicide and 40 times less than their likelihood of dying accidentally. On top of this, mental health crises amongst children have risen dramatically during COVID because we have made children bear the brunt of this disease, which has little impact on them. This decision is clearly driven by politics and not by data, or the data would have been shared with the public as we requested. Since the beginning of this pandemic, my position and the position of the Village of Orland Park has been to inform, educate, and help the public rather than enforce mandates. It would have been nice if the Cook County Department of Public Health had done the same. When our doctors couldn't open because they did not have appropriate PPE, Cook County could not and would not provide doctors with PPE. We stepped in and sourced masks and instituted the Mask for Medical program, allowing our Orland Park medical professionals to open and provide needed medical services. When the Cook County Department of Public Health would not provide the village with vaccine doses to get seniors and teachers vaccinated, we sourced those doses from private pharmacies and provided transportations to seniors who needed the transportation to ensure they could get the needed vaccinations. The data here on this last slide demonstrates that our approach has been correct. Informing the public, operating as normally as possible with appropriate safety modifications, and not enforcing mandates, and instead informing the public and letting them make informed decision has resulted in lower case rates in Orland Park than either the state of Illinois or suburban Cook County. We have also taken these positions as an elected body, not as edicts made by any individual or by the mayor. This is the way representative government is supposed to work. Fact-based, data-driven decisions made by a legislative body. If Cook County and the state of Illinois want to make these types of decisions, they should do so via their legislative body, not by individual edicts. And they should do so with facts and data that they share with the public. And they should do so with a deliberative process that should be done in the public eye. None of that has been done, not since the beginning. With that, I will turn it over to our board if they have any comments.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Milani.
First, thank you for everybody that came out this evening and for everybody watching us at home for a special meeting. While you've heard a lot about COVID-19 this evening, and you will hear more about COVID-19, this really isn't about COVID. This is about Orland Park, once again, asking our legislature to step up and do their jobs. You know, we come together today, as Mayor Pico mentioned, as a board in public to deliberate on this action. Hopefully other municipalities will follow suit and do the same. We ask that you please re-examine this Cook County vaccination passport mandate for its legitimacy and the enforceability, and put an end to this continued abuse of power. The City of Chicago and Cook County have announced this new requirement starting January 3rd. However, if the problem was so severe, the timing makes no sense, as you would think it would have been immediate. And the list of businesses, once again, make no sense. You won't need proof of ID for voting, but you will need proof it's you that's vaccinated. You also heard the locations where this proof will be required, but what you don't hear are retail establishment, big box stores, office complexes, hospitals, and schools, and literally every other establishment with large groups of people that do not fall into the categories that are targeted. But no need to fear, as there are some exemptions to this mandate. Exemptions to the new order include those entering establishments for less than 10 minutes and remaining masked while picking up carry-out food, deliveries, or using the bathroom. Students on school trips, house of worship, charitable food service such as soup kitchens, where it's quite possible that more people would be unvaccinated, indoor locations limited to tenants, and traveling professional athletes are also exempt. So once again, COVID-19 is our intelligent virus that does not infect people entering buildings for less than 10 minutes, those using the bathroom, those on field trips, while at church, or if you're a traveling professional athlete. The City of Chicago and Cook County are waging war against the unvaccinated, while not supplying any supporting data for their decisions, or why these specific locations were chosen. And while it is clear that people are being infected with COVID-19, whether they have been vaccinated or not. So how does showing a vaccination card help dampen the spread of COVID? In some ways, the county's mandate is actually stricter than the city's, where Cook County will only give exceptions to those with proof of medical exemptions and a negative COVID test taken within the last 24 hours. Religious exemptions will not even be honored. So people that are unvaccinated will just have to take their business elsewhere, like Will County, DuPage County, and even Orland Park, as we are going to refuse to enforce this mandate. And to explain how absurd this mandate is, as it's written, my neighbor's 5-year-old daughter mentioned to me the other day that he'll have to show her vaccination records to sit down inside a McDonald's and eat a Happy Meal. My 18-year-old son will have to show his vaccination card and his driver's license, matching that vaccination card to prove it's him when he goes to Dave & Buster's. You will not have to show a vaccination record to enter a mall. However, once you enter the food court to sit down and eat, you will have to show your vaccination card. My neighbor's 17-year-old daughter will have to show her vaccination card while going to her dance lesson. However, professional athletes and performing artists, while they're traveling, will be exempt. Also keep in mind the businesses that you will frequent will not be required to mandate their employees be vaccinated, while you will still have to show your credentials. Their employees can simply opt into weekly testing instead. Our local businesses can't take another hit to their bottom lines. We refuse in Orland Park to place heavy burdens on our businesses, to put a process in place to track and verify vaccination status of their employees costs time and it costs money. Asking people to see their vaccination cards is an invasion of their rights and privacy and is going to cause inevitable conflict. Another side effect that local businesses just do not need. I read a recent Patch article where Steve Palmer, the owner of Palmer's Place in LaGrange, said he's supportive of vaccines and he believes his customers are too. That said, he's uncomfortable and unhappy with the mandate, though he said he'll follow it. So Mr. Palmer stated, "Do I have to put bouncers at the doors before you come in? Or does the waitress sit there and say to everybody, I need proof of vaccination, and then there's the one person that doesn't want to show it?" He says he doesn't want that type of confrontation. And as we all have heard in the news, the Omicron variant has proven to spread quicker. This is true. However, it's also known to be less lethal, has had mild presentation of symptoms which resemble a common cold. And from the beginning, we've understood this to be a basic epidemiology principle. When viruses mutate, they become less lethal and less dangerous as to not damage the host so they can spread quicker and continue to reproduce. That is what we're dealing with today. While the number of cases will obviously increase, many scientists and doctors have claimed that this could be a good sign for COVID-19 as the virus is becoming weaker symptomatically, even though it is spreading. It is also statistically unlikely that it'll mutate into a more severe variant. So that being said, people should still focus on their basics. Wash your hands, distance yourself from others when possible, wear a mask if you choose to, and if you're sick, stay home. In Orland Park, we've allowed our residents a choice in how they wish to handle COVID-19. We have allowed our businesses a choice in how they wish to handle COVID-19. So thus, I will not support this current attempt of government overreach of basically forcing vaccination without being legislated upon local businesses and their patrons. While our government turns the COVID-19 vaccination into the proverbial scarlet letter, providing more shaming and social stigmatization of the unvaccinated, they should spend more time realizing that COVID-19 is something that we are going to have to live with for a long time, whether people are vaccinated or not. It is obvious that today's vaccinations are not working as effectively as we would like. So let's find ways to mitigate this virus without mandating, segregating, and discriminating. I recently read that legislature spent valuable time passing HB 3490, which provides that non-fat or 1% dairy milk is a default beverage listed for a children's meal at a restaurant. Instead of using legislative time to focus on issues like that, let's use the legislative process as it should be and for some more pressing issues. The people of Orland Park, Cook County, and the state of Illinois have had enough. The emergency executive powers need to end. If our legislator feels that the path of Illinois is on the correct one, create a bill, evaluate it, and make it law instead of allowing this abuse of executive emergency power to continue. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is
Trustee
Billy.
Healy?
Mr. Mayor, in this time of, it's hard economically out there for a number of businesses. And as we try and attract business for economic development to Orland Park, this is not a good move for that. It's hard enough to attract businesses to Cook County, which is unsafe in so many places with the carjackings and the looting and the theft with no penalties being applied to it. It's hard enough to attract new business to come into our neighborhoods, and especially Orland Park. Where even though we're safe, you think this would be the jewel of Cook County, but this mandate just goes along with the other heavy burdens of operating in Cook County. These rules and regulations are proposed by Ms. Prestwinkle are an example of bad government, not going through the legislative process, not being open and forthcoming with their details. And adding to these regulations is not a step forward for business. I just want to get back to normal. This is a step in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Any other comments? So before we go to a vote, I will just point out that the village, as I noted before, we've not mandated any of these mandates. We haven't enforced any of them. And as you saw from the previous slide, the last slide, our cases are lower. We also have a higher vaccination rate than the rest of the state. Why? Because we informed them. We gave people information. We didn't try and coerce them, and we allowed the people to make their own decisions based on the information they had and by talking to their doctors. That's what the state and county should try. Instead of not giving us data, they should try actually giving people the facts and the information. People can handle the facts, they can handle the truth, and they can make their own decisions. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're all looking for. Additionally, I will not, and I don't think the rest of the board will, put our police into a position where they're doing unimportant activities at the expense of keeping our residents safe from what we know is happening right now because of the catch and release program that's being operated in Cook County. So maybe President Preckwinkle should focus on that. Call the roll.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radoszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. With that, we have non-scheduled citizens and visitors. I've got one signed up to speak, Diane Murphy. And as a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Diane Murphy. I've been a resident of Orland Park for 20 years, raised my children here. I want to start out by saying I could not be prouder of our police. They go above and beyond for us. Our malls have been safe because of them. We feel comfortable to send our kids to a mall and feel that they're being watched over very well. Couldn't be prouder of our mayor. He's doing a great job. I agree with you, sir, about all these mandates. They're ridiculous. It's obvious if everybody does the research, which I do on a daily basis. I look at doctors, I look at scientists, I look at everything and the facts of what are being said. There is no evidence that the vaxxed versus the unvaccinated catch this disease more. As we can see with just watching football, the NFL, all of them have had COVID and have been probably double vaxxed and boosted. So it is political. I called Pritzker's office today to ask about this mandate and this vaccine, and they told me it's not a law. It's just a mandate. So we got to keep that in mind. It is not a law. This is all political. When I tried calling Cook County today, you can't reach anyone. Nobody wants to talk to you about it. And if you do talk to someone and you start to ask them about facts, nobody wants to give them to you because there really are none. This is all political. My kids have been raised here, and they do well in school here. The teachers are wonderful. And the bottom line is they should not be punished. I'm not going to tell you whether I'm vaxxed or not vaxxed because my husband, I can't get his information because of the HIPAA law. You guys shouldn't be able to get my information, whether I'm vaxxed or not, to total strangers. So I just want to say I agree with you guys 100%. This is ridiculous. Our police officers work so hard, and they don't need to be doing this. You know there's going to be fights that break out. There's going to be riots.
30 seconds.
And it's just not worth it. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me as a resident.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else to speak? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Milani.
Aye.
Trustee Compass.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Radiszewski.
Aye.
Mayor Peacock.
Aye. We're adjourned.